The teacher stood near the school gate every morning, watching students walk in with noisy laughter and bright faces. He was not a famous man, not powerful, and not rich, but he was known for one thing: kindness. His name was Daniel Carter, and he taught history in a small public school. He believed that every child carried a future inside them, even if the world could not see it yet. One morning, Daniel noticed a boy walking slowly at the back of the group. The boy's clothes were old, his bag was torn, and his shoes had holes so wide that his socks touched the cold ground. Other students laughed, whispered, and pointed at his feet. Daniel felt something heavy in his chest. He called the boy after class and gently asked him why he never complained. The boy smiled a weak smile and said his family had no money, and shoes were not important. That answer stayed in Daniel's mind all day. After school, he walked to a small store and bought a simple pair of shoes, nothing fancy, just strong and clean. The next morning, he gave the shoes to the boy quietly, asking him not to tell anyone. The boy's eyes filled with tears, but he did not cry. He only said thank you again and again. Daniel thought that was the end of it. He was wrong. By afternoon, the principal called Daniel into the office. Parents were sitting there, faces cold and angry. They accused him of breaking rules, of favoritism, and of crossing boundaries. Daniel tried to explain. He said he only wanted to help a child in need. But the words kindness and care had no power in that room. The principal's voice was calm but firm. Daniel was told that his actions were unprofessional. He was fired on the spot. Daniel walked out of the school holding a small box with his personal items. Students watched through windows, confused and silent. The boy with the new shoes stood frozen, unable to move. As Daniel stepped outside, rain began to fall softly. He looked up at the grey sky and wondered how doing something good had destroyed his life. He had no job, no savings, and no plan. That night, Daniel sat alone in his small apartment. The silence was loud, and his thoughts were heavy. Then he heard a knock on the door. Outside stood a man in a dark coat, holding an envelope. The man said nothing, only handed the letter and walked away into the rain. Daniel opened the envelope slowly. Inside was a letter written in clean, careful words. It claimed to be from a distant uncle he had never met. The letter said the uncle had passed away. It said Daniel was the only living relative. And it said there was something waiting for him, something important. At the bottom of the letter was an address and a time. No explanation, no emotion, just instructions. Daniel laughed quietly. He thought it was a joke, maybe even a cruel trick. But something about the letter felt heavy, real. The next day, with nothing left to lose, Daniel followed the address. It led him far outside the city, to a place where old buildings stood forgotten. The road ended at a structure that looked abandoned. The building had no signs, no lights, and no windows. Yet the door opened as soon as Daniel stepped closer, as if it had been waiting for him. Inside, the air felt different. Warm, clean, and strangely alive. Lights turned on by themselves, revealing smooth walls and silent machines. A voice echoed softly, welcoming him by name. Daniel froze, his heart racing. No one should have known he was coming. The voice told him that his uncle had watched Earth for a long time, that he had protected it from dangers humans never knew existed, and that now, his role had ended. Daniel was told that kindness was rare, that compassion was noticed far beyond Earth, and that the universe had rules, but also rewards. Daniel did not understand. He only knew his life had broken apart. And now something far greater was pulling him forward. As the walls shifted and the lights grew brighter, Daniel realized this was not about money. This was about something much bigger, and somewhere far beyond the stars. Something ancient had noticed a teacher who gave shoes to a poor child, and decided his story was only just beginning. Daniel stood still as the lights around him slowly changed color. His mind told him to run, but his feet refused to move. The voice did not sound cold or threatening. It sounded calm, patient, almost respectful. Daniel asked who was speaking. The answer came after a short silence. The voice said it was a guide, created by his uncle long ago. Daniel tried to understand how a man he never met could build something like this. His uncle had always been described as a nobody in family stories. A man who disappeared and was forgotten. The walls around Daniel began to move. Not sliding like doors, but reshaping like liquid stone. Images appeared in the air, floating without screens. Daniel saw Earth from space. Blue, small, and fragile. Then he saw shadows moving around it, shapes too large to name. The voice explained that the universe was full of life. But not all life was kind. Some watched planets the way hunters watched prey. Daniel's hands began to shake. He asked why he was being shown this. The voice answered that his uncle had once asked the same question. The images changed. Daniel saw a younger version of his uncle, standing where he now stood. The uncle looked scared, confused, and very human. The voice said the uncle was chosen not for strength or intelligence. He was chosen because he once saved a stranger without expecting anything back. That single moment had sent a signal far beyond Earth. Daniel felt his chest tighten. He thought about the boy and the shoes. A simple act, forgotten by the world. The voice said kindness was rare in the universe. Power was common, fear was common, greed was endless. But kindness without reward was almost impossible to find. Daniel asked what any of this had to do with him. The room went quiet for a moment. Then the voice said his uncle was gone. The protection system needed a new human link. Someone the universe could trust. Someone who would not use power to rule. Daniel laughed nervously. He said he was just a teacher who lost his job. He said there had to be a mistake. The lights dimmed slightly. The voice said the system had already tested him. It showed scenes from his life, moments of patience, sacrifice, and quiet care. Daniel watched himself staying late to help students. Spending his own money on classroom supplies. Choosing others even when it cost him. The voice said the universe did not reward ambition. It rewarded intent. And Daniel's intent had always been clean. A platform rose slowly from the floor. On it rested a small object, no bigger than a watch. It glowed softly, pulsing like a heartbeat. The voice said this device was not a weapon. It was a bridge. A way to hear signals humans normally could not. Daniel was told he could walk away. The system would shut down. Earth would continue unaware. But the voice warned him. Something had already noticed Earth again. Something curious, ancient, and impatient. Daniel asked what would happen if he refused. The answer was slow and careful. No one knew. Daniel thought about his empty apartment. His lost career. The boy standing silent at the school window. He reached for the device. The moment his fingers touched it, warmth spread through his body. Not pain, not force, just understanding. For a brief second, Daniel felt countless voices. Whispers from distant stars. Warnings hidden inside cosmic noise. He pulled his hand back, breathing hard. The device dimmed, waiting. As if it respected his fear. The voice said the universe never forced choice. Choice was what made humanity valuable. Without choice, kindness meant nothing. Suddenly, alarms echoed softly through the room. Not loud, but urgent. Lights turned red and blue, moving like waves. The voice said a signal had been detected. Not an attack, not yet. But observation. Something far away had noticed a change. The system waking up. A new human touching old power. Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. He realized this was bigger than his own life. Much bigger. The voice asked him one final time. Would he listen? Or would he look away? Daniel closed his eyes. He remembered the boy's smile. He remembered choosing kindness even when it hurt. When he opened his eyes again, he placed the device firmly on his wrist. And the room fell silent. Far beyond Earth. Something ancient adjusted its focus. And began watching a teacher who was no longer just a teacher. The device tightened gently around Daniel's wrist. It did not feel like metal. It felt warm, alive, almost aware of him. The room reacted instantly. Lights shifted into soft white waves. The alarm stopped as if satisfied. Daniel felt his breathing slow. His thoughts became clear. Noise inside his head faded away. The voice returned, calmer than before. It said the bridge was active. Daniel was now connected. At first, nothing happened. Then he heard it. A low hum beneath reality itself. It was not sound like music. It was information. Streams of meaning flowing past his mind. Daniel saw symbols form in the air. They moved too fast to read. Yet somehow he understood them. The voice explained that the device did not give power. It unlocked perception. Daniel could now notice what always existed. He looked at the walls. They were no longer solid. Layers of energy flowed through them like invisible rivers. Daniel staggered back. The universe suddenly felt crowded, full of unseen movement. The voice warned him to focus. Too much awareness could break a human mind. The device slowly adjusted. The room changed again. A large image appeared. Earth floating alone in darkness. Around it were faint lines. Paths of attention. Old watchers passing by without stopping. The voice said Earth had been ignored for a long time. Humans were loud but small. Not worth the risk. But something had changed. A signal had been sent years ago. A kindness marker. Daniel realized what that meant. His uncle had sent the signal. By helping a stranger long ago. The universe did not see kindness as emotion. It saw it as proof. Proof of restraint. Many civilizations grew strong. Then destroyed themselves. Power always came first. Kindness came last. Often too late. That was why it mattered. Daniel asked what the watchers wanted now. The image zoomed out. A shadow moved closer to Earth. It was not a ship. Not a creature. It was a presence. The voice called it an evaluator. A test without mercy. A judge without words. If humanity failed, Earth would not be destroyed. It would be ignored forever. That sounded harmless. But the voice corrected him. Ignored worlds were eventually harvested. Daniel felt cold fear settle in his stomach. He asked how humanity would be tested. The voice hesitated. Not through war. Not through strength. Through response. The evaluator would create pressure. Fear. Confusion. Temptation. And watch how humans reacted. Daniel thought of governments. Weapons. Panic. History repeating itself. The voice said this was why a human link was needed. Not to stop events. But to guide choices. Daniel asked how one man could guide a planet. The answer surprised him. He would not guide leaders. He would guide moments. Small choices. Quiet paths. The device showed him flashes of the future. A protest turning violent. A scientist choosing silence over truth. Daniel gasped. He saw how small actions changed outcomes. Like stones in a river. The voice said Daniel could whisper. Not control. Just nudge. A warning in a dream. A sudden doubt. A moment of courage. But there was a rule. Daniel could never act for himself. Only for balance. No reward. No fame. No protection from pain. Daniel felt anger rise. He had already lost everything. Now he was asked to lose more. The device responded. Showing him the boy again. Walking confidently in new shoes. That small change had mattered. It had shifted a life. The universe noticed. Daniel understood then. This was not about saving the world alone. It was about giving humanity a chance. Suddenly, the image changed. The evaluator moved closer. Its attention sharpened. The voice said the test had begun early. Something unexpected had happened. Daniel touching the bridge too soon. A new signal echoed through space. Stronger than before. A human willingly accepting responsibility. Far away, ancient minds adjusted their calculations. Humans were not as predictable as expected. That was dangerous. Daniel felt pressure on his chest. Not physical. Existential. He asked what happened if he failed. The voice answered honestly. The system would shut down. Another human might be chosen. Or none at all. Earth's fate would drift. The room began to dissolve. Reality folding back into itself. Daniel was being returned. Before leaving, he asked one last question. Why him? Out of billions. The voice replied softly. Because when kindness cost you everything, you still chose it. Daniel opened his eyes. He was standing outside the old building. Morning sunlight touched his face. Cars passed by. People walked unaware. The world looked the same. But Daniel knew the truth now. Humanity was being watched. And a former teacher was holding its quiet future in his hands. Far beyond the stars. The evaluator paused. And waited to see what humans would choose next. Daniel walked through the city like a ghost no one could see. People passed him without knowing the weight he carried. The device rested quietly on his wrist, hidden under his sleeve. At first, Daniel tried to live normally. He applied for jobs. He waited in lines. But something felt different now. The world sounded louder. Not with noise, but with intent. When people argued, Daniel felt it before words were spoken. When fear spread, it moved like a shadow through crowds. The device did not speak, but it guided. One evening, Daniel felt a sudden pressure. Sharp and urgent. Like a warning pushing against his chest. He stopped walking. Closed his eyes. And listened. Far away, a choice was forming. A group of people, scared and angry. Ready to act without thinking. Daniel focused. The device warmed. And the noise slowed. He saw the moment clearly. A man about to throw the first stone. A single act that would break calm into chaos. Daniel did not control the man. He did not force him. He whispered. Not with words. But with feeling. A memory of consequence. The man hesitated. His arm lowered. Others followed. The moment passed. History shifted slightly. No one noticed. Daniel stepped back, shaking. It had worked. But the cost was real. Each whisper drained him. Not energy, but certainty. The voice returned that night. It said the evaluator was watching closely now. Patterns were forming. Humanity was unstable. But not hopeless. That confused the watchers. Daniel asked how long this test would last. The voice answered carefully. Until humanity decided who it was. Days turned into weeks. Small moments filled Daniel's life. Invisible battles fought in silence. A leader choosing peace over pride. A scientist releasing truth instead of hiding it. A soldier refusing an order that would cause harm. Each moment mattered. Each choice added weight. The balance shifted slowly. But not everyone chose well. Fear still ruled many hearts. And the evaluator noticed that too. One night, Daniel felt a pain like fire in his head. The device pulsed violently. A breach was forming. The voice warned him. The evaluator was testing limits now. Creating a crisis too large to ignore. Daniel saw it clearly. A disaster about to unfold. One that would force humanity's hand. Governments would panic. Weapons would be prepared. Trust would collapse. Daniel knew the rule. He could not act directly. He could only guide. But this time felt different. Too big. Too close. Daniel struggled. His hands shook. Doubt filled his thoughts. Was kindness enough? When fear was louder. When power was tempting. The device responded. Showing him millions of small lights. Human lives, fragile and bright. Each light represented choice. Not strength. Not weapons. Daniel realized something then. Humanity did not need one hero. It needed permission to be better. He focused harder than ever before. Not on leaders. But on people. Teachers calming students. Doctors refusing to give up. Strangers helping strangers. The whispers spread wider than before. Not louder, but deeper. A shared feeling moved across the world. Not fear, but responsibility. The crisis slowed. Decisions changed. Violence stepped back. The evaluator paused. Its presence pressed against Earth's edge. Studying the response. Daniel collapsed to his knees. Exhausted. Empty. The voice returned, quieter now. It said the evaluator was uncertain. This had not happened before. Most worlds failed quickly. Some passed by force. But humans resisted in a different way. They argued. They struggled. But they cared. Daniel felt tears fall. Not from pain, but from relief. Yet the voice warned him. The test was not over. One final measure remained. The evaluator would look at intent. Not actions, but reason. Why humans chose kindness. Was it weakness? Or understanding? Daniel felt the weight return. He knew the last moment was coming. And he might not survive it unchanged. He looked up at the night sky. Stars watching silently. Judging patiently. Daniel whispered to no one. Humans are not perfect. But we try. Far beyond the stars. The evaluator shifted its form. Preparing to decide. And the fate of Earth balanced on a simple truth. Whether kindness was a choice. Or just an accident. Daniel felt the air change before he saw anything. The night sky looked the same, but it no longer felt empty. The device on his wrist grew warm. Not urgent. Not warning. Calm. The voice returned for the last time. It sounded different now. Less distant. More human. The evaluator had made its decision. But it needed one final confirmation. Not from governments. Not from armies. From Daniel. The voice explained that the universe judged civilizations by one question. When given power, what do you protect first? Yourself, or others? Daniel felt the weight of that question press into his chest. He had no power left to give. No whispers remaining. The evaluator appeared. Not as a shape, but as presence filling the sky. Stars dimmed slightly. Time felt slower. As if the universe was holding its breath. Daniel understood then. This was not about success. It was about intent until the end. The evaluator sent a final test. Not a disaster. Not fear. A gift. A signal spread across Earth. Offering knowledge. Advanced energy. Cures. Control. To any leader willing to accept it. No cost. No conditions. Daniel felt panic rise. This was more dangerous than any threat. Power always revealed truth. He could not stop the signal. He could not guide everyone. He could only choose for himself. The voice asked one last thing. Would Daniel accept authority and guide humanity directly? He could become a symbol, a ruler, a protector with control. His life could be restored. His name honored. His suffering erased. Daniel closed his eyes. He thought of the classroom. Of small desks and tired faces. He thought of the boy with the shoes. Not powerful. Not important to the universe. Yet seen. Daniel understood what kindness really meant now. It was not control. It was trust. He refused the authority. Refused the power. Refused the reward. He sent a single message through the device. Not a command. A statement. Humans must choose for themselves. If we fail honestly. If we grow together. The evaluator paused. The gift signal faded. The universe listened. Across Earth, leaders hesitated. The sudden offer gone. Leaving only their true intentions behind. Some were angry. Some relieved. Some thoughtful. The evaluator observed carefully. Humans had been tempted. And restraint had appeared. Not everywhere. Not perfectly. But enough. The presence in the sky began to withdraw. Stars returned to full light. Time resumed its normal flow. The voice spoke softly. The evaluation was complete. Earth would remain independent. Not protected. Not owned. Respected. Daniel fell to the ground. Exhausted beyond words. The device loosened on his wrist. The voice said the bridge would close. The system would sleep. But the mark would remain. Humanity had been noticed. Not as conquerors, but as caretakers in progress. Daniel felt the device fade, becoming nothing more than a silent band. Its work done. Morning came quietly. Birds sang. Cars moved. Life continued, unaware of how close everything had come. Weeks later, Daniel found work again. Not as a hero. Not as a leader. As a teacher. In a different school. In a smaller classroom. With fewer rules. One day, a familiar boy walked in. Wearing worn shoes again. But standing taller than before. The boy smiled when he saw Daniel. Not knowing why he felt safe. Only that he did. Daniel smiled back. The universe no longer watching closely. But remembering. Far beyond Earth, records were updated. Humanity listed as unfinished. But promising. And among the stars. A simple truth was logged forever. That a teacher once lost everything. And by choosing kindness again, gave humanity the right to choose its future.